Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there tonight and had yourselves a fantastic New Year's Day as we come to the end of the holiday period. It seems like just yesterday it was back in September and October, as one of my personal favorite times of the year is September through December, but I get pretty fired up for a new year also. And I hope you folks feel the same, as it's a new year, maybe new you. But regardless, I hope you guys certainly had an awesome day. And unfortunately, yes, most of us do head on back to work tomorrow, as we've had a couple of very long weekends. Some people just took the last 2 weeks off, but back to the normal swing of things. That's just the way life works, right? But here we are, here to talk about some weather, and we have a lot to speak on. What's wild is we are kickstarting 2024 with an incredibly active stretch of weather. I think the next 15 days of weather could be the most active stretch of weather that we've seen over the last year, in my opinion. So we need to figure it out. We're going to talk about the first storm system, which I don't think is much of anything. It's hard to even call it storm system number one anymore, because it does not look like it's going to be substantial for anybody, but could deliver a surprise for areas in the southeast, and we'll speak on that. Not a big deal at all, but we'll speak on it right at the beginning. The next part will be about the storm system number two, which you can kind of call storm system number one, but that is the potential for a major winter storm for areas of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, and even areas of the Ohio Valley. We're going to speak on that. Also areas of the Southern Alps region. And then there's another storm system behind that we've been kind of talking about over the last several videos. This could cut across the country more so than what the track of the low pressure does for the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic this weekend, but that could change. The signal for that is very high also, and I think that one could pack more of a punch than what's coming this weekend for certain areas of the country. So we're going to speak on all this in great detail, take advantage of those timestamps, and trust me, when we get closer to the storm system this weekend, I will start to zoom more into some of these states, get a lot more detail for states, just like we always do, and I will not leave anybody hanging, I promise you. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And thank y'all for the amazing growth over the last few weeks. I'm almost at 60,000 subscribers. Just thank y'all so much. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below so I can do that and others can do it too. And I will catch up with all the comments tomorrow afternoon, I promise. So let's get rocking and rolling. So we'll start off just by looking at this. What's going on out there this evening? We have just some rain in the mid-Atlantic. There has been some flakes mixing in just outside of Washington, D.C. Looks like there still is in northern VA, areas of Maryland. And we'll continue to see a little bit of snow in the higher elevations of West Virginia. It's definitely been kind of more so a wintry day across this area of the country right in here. Even some flakes been flying around as far south as the mountains of North Carolina. Nothing too crazy, nothing compared to what we could potentially see here in the coming days into this weekend. But it's definitely been a chilly day, kind of a wintry day across areas of the country. The rest of the country is quiet though. So let's just jump right into it, talk about the first storm system. That is here in the next 48 hours. And what we're seeing here, and for the central U.S., this first wave piece of energy, really there's two pieces of energy trying to connect with one another. This is not going to affect you folks in the central U.S. whatsoever, except maybe Texas. Some rain Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. But here it is, the beginning stages of it. We got rain moving across Louisiana, moving into southern sections of Alabama and Mississippi. We continue to move this forward. There's a lot of energy up here, and there's certainly a lot of energy down here, but they're not really connecting. There's cold air associated with this northern piece of energy up here, but there's no phasing. So this first system midway this week is not going to be a big deal. But this is where I think a surprise could be. This is the European model. You see green down here. I think we could have a rain-snow mix, maybe just flat out snow in certain areas. And even though the forecast amount of snow in the mountains of North Carolina isn't much, I think someone could see a surprise inch or so in the kind of the southwest mountains of North Carolina, even North Georgia. But to keep this going, this is mainly rain down here. But I'm telling you, sometime Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening in northern Alabama, North Georgia, I would not be surprised one bit we see some snow. And I'll show you the short range NAM, which is going crazy with this. I don't buy it, but I will show it because I do think I never say there's a zero possibility of that outlier happening, right? So I do want to mention it, but we're getting into Wednesday evening. There's that light snow showing up in the mountains. There's the energy up here. This cold air will surge over the Great Lakes region and kickstart some lake effect snow across pretty much all the Great Lakes and all those favored areas that's bordering the lakes. And this will move over this region. And then we'll start to get into Thursday morning. This area starts to get its act together, but at this point, the cold air is still too far behind, and this is moving out into the ocean. But I do think as we're waking up Thursday morning, we're going to have a period of light, maybe moderate snow closer to the coastal regions. I think there's a higher than not possibility of this happen, higher than 50% chance. I think we could get some light snow north of DC, maybe into the Baltimore area, Philadelphia, Harrisburg, maybe. I certainly think anybody in this area, even where you don't see the blue, could see it. New York City. And I do think there'll be the phasing of the energy just enough closer to land where we will have a thin layer of light snow developing sometime Thursday morning. I definitely think it's going to be another wintry week, especially late week into this weekend for West Virginia. But as early as Thursday, Wednesday night, Thursday, we're going to get some more snow in West Virginia. Even the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, I definitely think we'll get some more snow on those higher mountaintops. Folks, if you're picking this coming weekend to go to the mountains for like a winter getaway and you're hoping for snow, I think you're picking a fantastic weekend. We'll talk more on that here in a second. But lake effect snow, lake effect energy kind of just funneling off into the inland areas off the lakes in the northeast, and then this heads on out. The NAM. Let's focus in on this area, the Southern Alps region. What is the NAM showing? Here it is. It's going crazy with not just light snow, but heavy snow. It's saying that there's going to be enough cold air. And I talked about this morning why it was showing this. We're not going to get deep into that again. But there's three things occurring here that's making the NAM show this. First thing, heavier precipitation moving further north. So this would cause some what we call frontogenesis, which basically means that the atmosphere is saturated in this region. So I think you could get a front-end thumping of heavier precipitation, whether that's rain or snow. That is what the NAM is showing. Second thing the NAM is showing, and I think it'll be there, it's just as the surface temperatures are going to cooperate, which is the third thing. But the second thing is cold air aloft, about a mile up in the atmosphere. Temperatures are 30, 31 degrees in these areas potentially. But at the surface, the temperatures is like in the mid-30s, maybe low 30s, maybe even upper 30s. This causes dynamic cooling, which allows for snow to fall. Wet snow, Birmingham points north into, Chattanooga, Huntsville, Atlanta, and this keeps on going. And, it starts to move into the upstate of South Carolina all the way into Charlotte, certainly the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, and then this heads on out. I know a lot of, if you're watching this and you're in the Southeast, you're watching this, you're thinking, man, this looks awesome. Please do not get your hopes up on this. I think it's an outlier, and I think it's an outlier for a reason. You look at the 3KM NAM, which I think is a better, more reasonable scenario here. Same thing, getting into Wednesday afternoon. I think we could get some wintry precipitation in northern Alabama Wednesday afternoon, certainly into the Cumberland Plateau. I think it'll be a chilly day. Cold air will be ushering in from the north. And then you stop it right here. This is around 5, 6 p.m. And look at this rain-snow mix, just flat-out snow showing up just west of Atlanta, snow up here in the mountains of Georgia, and you keep this going. And I think there is a higher-than-not possibility that more moisture than what this is showing could make it north. That's why I think a sneaky couple inches of snow could fall in the mountains. I do. But, look at this. This is Atlanta. Rain-snow mix moves over the city, maybe even just snow. I would not be surprised one single bit sometime Wednesday evening, there being snow falling in Atlanta or either Birmingham up to Huntsville, up to Chattanooga, North Georgia. Not even one bit. I think once you get down here, central Georgia, Augusta, Columbia, even though you got some moisture that moves over, I think the surface temperatures do not cooperate. But I think this little area of snow up here could drop accumulating snow in the southern Appalachian Mountains. But I would watch. One thing that is coming in, it'll be in tomorrow, is the long range H-R model. It will be in range by the time probably we do a video tomorrow morning. I am going to be fascinated to see what this shows for this scenario for the Southeast. So we'll continue to monitor this. This is what falls between now and this event. And then this is that first event. Here it comes, mainly showing lake effect snow. Not a big event, but at least you're seeing snow again, but shows lake effect snow off Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Ontario. And there's that blend of all models kind of, just a bone being thrown for those areas. Not a lot, not a big signal at all. And I think the NAM is skewing the blend of all models right into here. But I think that when we get a little bit closer to this, and I know you're thinking, man, we're already right here. It's 48 hours away. I think that kind of like if you live in the southwest mountains of North Carolina, you know, maybe the higher elevations of northeast Georgia, I think you could get something sneaky out of this. So we'll definitely continue to monitor this over the next 48 hours for sure. Let's talk about the big one, the second storm. And really, as we get into tomorrow, we're going to start calling this storm number 1, and then the one that comes after this, storm number 2. So here it comes. I want to show my folks out here in the west some love. Here it comes, already Tuesday morning. So this isn't a fact if this is going to happen or not. We're going to have a storm. It's just trying to figure out who's going to see the heavy snow and who's not. So here it comes, moving into the west coast. You know, you folks out west have not seen any big systems over the last several weeks. So you're going to start to add that snowpack back up again. Look at that heavy snow in the Cascades. Look at that heavy snow in the Sierra Nevada. Even some of the lower elevations seeing some snow. You get into Wednesday, look at that heavier snow over Nevada. And then look at the snow for Utah. This is cold enough for like Salt Lake City to see snow. And look at the snow for northern Arizona. And then we start to get into Thursday morning. And I mean, this would be an all-out winter storm for areas of the higher elevations of Arizona, New Mexico. And this continues. We could have some energy in between this somewhere too. A lot of energy flying around between what is about to be this storm system for the Northeast, and then the one coming after that. The next one comes in almost immediately after. In fact, here it comes right here. So let's go on and switch it to the central U.S., what the Euro shows, and here it comes. Look at this. Latest Euro now saying, hey, the folks in the Panhandle of Texas, Oklahoma, back in the game. Heavy snow into southeast Colorado, northeast New Mexico. You keep this going. Eventually, it does jolt north, just rain in Texas and most of Oklahoma. Latest Euro says, hey, there could be snow in the northern counties of Oklahoma Friday morning. Time's up here, okay? And then you keep this going. And there's a pretty decent signal for Kansas, I would say. For the central frame, I would say Kansas has the best signal for this. It really falls off once you get past Kansas. You start to get into Friday afternoon. And now, northern Arkansas, kind of the southern half of Missouri, not really showing much. But we'll watch. This could trend back. There's cold air up here. At the same time, there's going to be snow flying around here in the upper Midwest, too. There's energy already up here. A lot of energy flying around. Man, these videos are going to be long in the coming days. They already are. I wouldn't be surprised we end up getting a video that lasts an hour at some point. But here it is, some light snow showing up in northern Missouri. And then we go on and switch it to the eastern frame. Okay, let's back it up a little bit. Starting it off, let's start it off Friday evening. Here it comes. Starting to weaken off with a bang. A lot of more heavy rain. And we will show you the rainfall possibilities down here too. Well, the rainfall that's going to fall here in the next video most likely. But another soaker 2 days later after your soaker that you get midweek moves in Friday evening. Okay, and then we start to get into the wee hours of the morning this coming Saturday morning. Look at the winter storm moving into the mountains of North Carolina and also the higher elevations of Tennessee. Will you start out as something like in the Cumberland Plateau? I think it's possible. A 999 millibar low. This system, and I'm going to explain the energy here in a second, is much different than that other system we talked about. This is purely a southern shortwave, just a gigantic low coming out the Gulf. All right, there's nothing really on top driving this. This is just its own area of energy, and I'll show you what I mean here in a second. But you get into Saturday morning, folks, and here it comes. All-out winter storm cranking up over the mountains of North Carolina, and then it takes over midday Saturday. A big-time winter storm, still ongoing like around Boone. And look at this. This is kind of sneaking into the northwest sections of the Triad of North Carolina. It's a weird system. This looks like your classic upper-level low associated with this low, which typically can bring their own cold air aloft, but this throws this low right over the apps before it eventually shifts more east rather than northeast. So, you know, it would make areas of eastern Tennessee and most of Tennessee not get a lot. That could be a different story once you get into Kentucky. The Euro says, hey, you're going to be heavy snow. You keep this going. Look at all that heavy snow in the higher elevations of West Virginia, northern VA, western VA. And here it comes. Look, our folks here in Washington, D.C. getting into Baltimore. Snow starts to move in Saturday afternoon. 996 low here. Additional low right here. Kind of a dual low setup. All right, we stop it here. This is Saturday evening. Look at this heavy snow over Ohio, northern Kentucky, Columbus, Lexington getting snow, Dayton getting snow. It's a miss for Indiana, basically. But it is close enough to bring snow in the latest Euro all the way to Cleveland. Everybody in, the southern half of Ohio. I'm trying to mention every state. It's hard, guys. Delmarva region, Delaware, coastal regions of Maryland looks more so like rain. But you're hanging on to that rain snow on the snowy side for Washington, D.C. and Baltimore for dear life here. I think that, areas in central Maryland, northern VA could get rocked with heavy wet snow if this remains the same track. But, this is your case where, you keep this going. We'll go all the way out to the middle of the night, Saturday night into next Sunday morning. So it's right in the middle of the night, Saturday night. You go down to Washington, D.C., you done switch to rain. Northern New Jersey getting snow. The southern half of New Jersey, rain. 987 millibar right off the coast of the Jersey Shore. Harrisburg getting snow. Scranton getting snow. Pittsburgh, this would be snow for you guys. Erie, Binghamton, heavy snow starting to move in. New York City, Long Island might start as rain, then switches to snow. And then the Euro, as we're getting into Sunday morning, turns this into a pretty significant snowstorm. Pretty cold temperatures, too. Latest Euro wouldn't have any issues with temperatures. Southern New England gets rocked with a pretty substantial snowstorm. I want to watch all this energy back here, too, and how it kind of tangles up with this main energy, because there's a lot of kind of energy flying around. You see these just shades of, green and blue. We'll watch that. And I think Southern Ontario, I think we watch out for Detroit. I don't think you're out the game in Detroit and Cleveland and even Indiana. I don't. But man, this is a big one. One of the biggest ones we've seen in a year or so. And then this moves up and now it's slamming Maine also. This would be a big winter storm for Atlantic Canada. Then it heads on out. What about the GFS? Same thing. Big storm moves in Tuesday into Wednesday. A lot of moisture out west. Heavy Sierra Nevada snow. Moderate amount of snow in the Cascades. This moves over. Shows a pretty decent snow event for Nevada. I think the only place in Nevada that ain't seeing snow is like Las Vegas. Even shows enough cold air down here for snow for the higher elevations of Southern Cal. Moisture for all the big cities along the western coast of California. And then we keep this going. We get all the way into Thursday morning. Look at the snow falling in northern Arizona, getting into New Mexico, snow across Utah. It's very muffled in this area, though. It's kind of everywhere. And then you keep going. You're getting all the way to Thursday afternoon, and this is when we can switch to the central. And here comes the snow. Heavy snow in northern New Mexico, especially those higher elevations, the southern Rockies. You keep this going, and it's kind of the same as the Euro. Starts out some snow in the northern counties, the Panhandle, Texas, Oklahoma. Snow a little bit further north than eastern Colorado. Heavy snow in Dodge City. And this would be probably a moderate snow event for the state of Kansas. Rain for most. It takes a really similar path as the Euro. It really does. They've kind of congealed together in the shorter term of this system. And then we keep on going, and this is when the signal drops off. It looks like you're about to get something to move into Kansas City Friday evening, and then it just kind of fades out. A little bit of a mix here in northern Arkansas, but it really loses kind of the northern extension of the structure of this, and really gets confined to this low down here. And then we look down here, and this is the latest hot off the press GFS. Here it comes, low down here. A lot of soaking rains down here. Typical El Nino stuff for the deep south. And here it is, getting into Saturday morning. If you're vacationing in the mountains, especially on the North Carolina side, and you're a winter weather fan, I'm telling you, you picked a fantastic weekend to go. But we do need to watch out for ice. Let's hope that it's just snow. But here it is, the beginning stages of a major winter storm. And here it goes, and there's that low cranking up. It's going to be wild trying to figure out these dual low kind of situations, because this low could bring a lot of warm air aloft. But, the GFS does throw a bone for like the Cumberland Plateau, maybe over the Nashville, and, delivers a big-time snowstorm for Kentucky. A lot of heavy snow right into here. All rain down here. This is starting to move into that cold air being pumped out by this high pressure right here, funneling down, cold air damming kind of set up. Heavy snow moving into West Virginia, Keep this going. And I mean, we stop it right here, folks. Right here. This is midnight next Saturday night. Heavy snow for even the areas that typically don't get it in like western West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, southeast Ohio. Big time winter storm moving in. Big time winter storm. And look at this. This is tucked into some of the northern counties of North Carolina too. We need to watch. 992 millibar low right here just outside of Norfolk. And starting to head into the Delmarva region. Heavy snow in Washington, D.C. as you're getting into, I think this moves in a little bit later than the Euro. Heavy snow moves in the middle of the night next Saturday night. Look at this heavy snow in Virginia, Maryland. Look at this heavy snow moving into southern PA. We keep this going, and we stop it right here. And there's some heavy snow getting thrown all the way back into Cleveland, central Ohio. And then look at this big-time winter storm moving into New York City. Now, in New Jersey, it shows snow further south. Okay, you're getting hefty snowfall in northern Delaware, the northern half of Delaware, pretty much all of New Jersey except the southern tip. And you stay all snow in Washington, D.C., Baltimore, to Philadelphia, to New York City. You don't mix it all like the Euro. But if I had a gut feeling on this, I would say this is going to tick a little bit further north, and I think Washington, D.C. is going to struggle. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer because I know you guys, I hate to say this, but you guys get screwed a lot with winter weather. There's just certain areas that get kind of hoodooed. I know somebody was like, man, in my comments was like, what does hoodooed mean? It means that you just kind of get gypped, you get screwed. So, you know, that's kind of a screw zone right there for sure. And then you're starting to get into southern New England, and here it is. I mean, just your classic winter storm. Now, the GFS is not I would say, a major winter storm for southern New England standards. Even New York City. Now, this delivers several inches of snow. Somebody could get a foot from this. But as far as comparing it to some of your blockbuster winter storms of this, no. But this would be significant for the D.C., Baltimore, and Philadelphia area. But it doesn't quite make it up to Boston. But I'm telling you, I think this is going to trend a little bit further north. That doesn't mean we're going to lose the cold air down here. I just think the precipitation field is going to trend north. That's the classic things that these things do. It really is. And then this moves on off. It does not. That's a huge difference with Vermont, New Hampshire, and Mass, and Maine especially. GFS does not even make it to Maine. It doesn't at all. So what about the snowfall signal for this? And yes, I'm going to show you the operational runs too, so hold tight with me. We'll look at the 24-hour European ensemble mean here. So it shows you in 24-hour increments. Here it is. Here's that heavy signal across the western U.S., getting into the Rockies, Nevada, pretty decent signal. And then here it is. There's a big-time signal right here for areas, and let's get back to this, for areas of New Mexico and then southern Colorado, and then sections, I mean, even the northern panhandle of Texas, Amarillo, the panhandle of Oklahoma still have a decent signal. This is getting into later this week, getting into Friday, and there's your signal for this area. So, you know, there's still some runs showing some snow deeper into Texas here. And you keep this going, and it drops off very quickly once you start to get kind of further east. And here it is. You know, you go from a pretty decent signal here, and then you start to get into the southern plains, starts to drop off. But I do like areas of Kansas to get snow out of this. Just how much? But watch as the signal significantly drops off in northern Arkansas and Missouri. That has been the common theme over the last couple of days. It has been. Okay, and then we switch it to the eastern U.S., and there's your big dog signal right here. And 24-hour slots here. There's your big signal for snow in the mountains of North Carolina, even the higher elevations of Tennessee. Cumberland Plateau has a signal too. A little bit of a signal down Tennessee, but once you get into Kentucky, there it is. This is your classic, looking like an upper level low sort of setup on the backside, this heavier precipitation. And you know, in northern Kentucky, Ohio, still watch Indiana. They're not completely out the woods with this, but really right here in the mid-Atlantic, the interior sections of the mid-Atlantic. Big signal right here. D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, up to New York City. There's a decent signal, but you're right on the fringe. But the heaviest signal is right into here. I really think it's going to get slammed with a big one. And then this heavy signal, as we move into the later stages of the storm, starts to move into southern PA, starts to move into northern New Jersey, eastern and southeastern sections of PA, and then southern New England. There's your signal. But if you notice, the European ensemble, you know, I feel like this is a good. I think that this is a good scenario. I really like what the European ensemble is showing with this. It still delivers to the big city snow, but the highest signal is just inland of the I-95 corridor, just west and northwest of the I-95 corridor, and I really like the idea of that, opposed to a more southern solution. Could be wrong though, but pretty decent signal. We still need to watch our neighbors here in southern Ontario, all the way to Buffalo, for this to trend pretty far north. But I mean, Pittsburgh, look at this. You know, you got a pretty decent signal as high as a 4.4 inch snowfall mean, and then there it goes, heads on off. So we need to watch this. The European run for snow, just the operational run, this is just the operational run. It's not an ensemble mean. And we're getting close enough to where I feel comfortable showing you this now, so we can compare solutions here. Not a forecast. Dang, we're 25 minutes into the video, and stinks it's the first time I'm saying that. I don't want anybody to hold me to anything, but you can see, you know, northern New Mexico, even areas of Arizona, and then you're seeing Colorado. You know, a decent signal for some moderate snow, and then you could get heavier snow right into here. And there's the snow right here for southern Kansas, even the northern counties of Oklahoma. And if you notice, it cuts off very quick once you get into Missouri. Very, very fast. And same thing, let's look at the GFS for this. It's a little bit further north, but does show a pretty decent snow event for Kansas. And once we get a little bit closer to this, we will start zooming into these regions. But, you know, eastern Colorado shows you some snow. Northern New Mexico's always been a highlighted area. What about our folks for Euro? So I want to start off like this first. This is between now and the beginning of the storm. Just light snowfall accumulations. Watch how the Euro comes into play. Look at that. Classic mid-Atlantic to northeast snow. And I know my folks in the southeast are thinking, man, we ain't getting squat. But this is your classic, I can't say it enough. I've said it at the end of the last few videos. This is your classic setup for something bigger down the road for the Deep South. You get a lot of misses to the north in the Deep South and really good winters before eventually connecting on down the road. So, you know, there's a lot of weather enthusiasts out there that always like, man, I hope the Northeast doesn't get it. I don't want them to get it. I don't want the Mid-Atlantic to get it. Well, you want to pull for them because it all connects, guys. Not always, but some of the best winters. I think 2021, 2022, 2022 January. You know, they got some pretty big winter storms. But, you know, there's a lot of great examples of that, guys. There really is. But here it goes. I mean, the European operational run, I mean, you see it, guys. I mean, it dumps 7 to 8 inches on Washington, D.C. Areas of northern VA get 8 to 12 inches of snow. I mean, Roanoke gets slammed with this. Boone gets hit with this. Asheville gets hit with this. Favorite area right here around the Lake Junaluska area, Waynesville region. There's a comma head right in here with that upper level low. Stripe of heavy snow from central and northern Kentucky into Ohio. Big cutoff, though, right into here. And this your favorite areas right here where these cold air damming, cold really gets entrenched into this region. All of Pittsburgh gets hit hard. New York City, Philadelphia, Baltimore, right on the fringe, on the good side of heavy snow, but you're really close. Baltimore, you get a foot of snow from this. Not one of your biggest snowfalls in the world, but, you know, it's a pretty decent snow event, a significant snow event. What about the GFS? Latest GFS coming in, and here it is. It's further south. Notice the European, you compare it with this, way up here. GFS, further south. Not as substantial for areas for, in fact, the GFS shows like a half inch to an inch of snow in Boston. The Euro shows 12 to 13 inches. That's a big difference, right? That's why I still don't show this much. I'm just showing it to you now just to compare, contrast. But the ensembles are the best thing to look at. But, you know, if you're in the Mid-Atlantic, you're pulling for the GFS. It's a colder scenario. But even with the Euro, you still get snow. You know, Washington, D.C. gets over a foot of snow with this. Same thing with Baltimore, D.C. into New Jersey. Heavy, heavy snow. And then all of West Virginia gets hit hard. And even the areas that typically don't see snow in West Virginia get it. And then even the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee get it. But, you know, unfortunately, you do see the Tennessee Valley, which is kind of one of those screw zones that I talk about. But I do not favor the GFS in this. I think the GFS is wrong with a southern kind of scenario with this, but Then again, I might be wrong, guys. I might. There is an ice scenario with this. I do, and I think this will increase with the blend of all models. The best thing to look at here. But there is a signal here in the southern Alps, right in here, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, for a few 1/100ths of an inch of ice. I think someone will end up getting over 1/10 of an inch of ice with this setup. Round it off with this, with the second storm, and you know, this is a product that I need to show more. This is from the National Weather Service, called the Winter Weather Outlook. And this is basically day 6 probability of exceeding a 1/4 inch liquid equivalent of snow and sleet. And it's a great product, and you can see it's really high right into here. And I think that this area has the best chance out of anybody to see a major winter storm. But I definitely think other areas will too. But 50 to 70% chance, even in this area, 70 to 90% chance to see that. And you know, I know you're thinking a 1/4 inch ain't a lot, but you know, a 1/4 inch of snow, depending on how cold it is when it's snowing, could be a few inches of snow, if not more, depending on what the ratio of snow is. And just to talk about the energy, guys, out here, I want to talk about kind of what's putting this together, because I hate jumping on here and just showing you model runs. But the reason that very first system doesn't work out here in the next 48 to 72 hours is because here's the southern energy, here's the northern energy. Watch as they come together or get close to one another. They start to kind of flirt with one another as you're getting later this work week, but they don't phase until they get off the coast of the eastern U.S. So with this, you need these two to work in tandem, but they don't. They finally do on out into the North Atlantic. The second storm that we just broke down, the significant winter weather storm threat here, this is purely a southern stream wave, and a very amped up one also. And as it gets amped up even more, it starts to get pulled north. So the only thing really driving this is its own strength, I would say. There's other things driving it too, but there's a high pressure up here, and we'll show you this, and this is funneling cold air into this. Now, I do want to watch little pieces of energy in between this storm system and the one we're about to talk about, the third one, because this could flirt with these vortices also. But this moves in, turns into a high impact storm, then this one whips in behind it. The second storm that we just broke down, here it is, low right here, and you see this high pressure is a cold high. This is funneling in cold air. It's called cold air damming east of the Alps. Well, not really over there, but you get what I'm saying. But funneling in that cold air into this low. And then there's a low right here too developing. And then this is basically giving a cold air feed to all this moisture that we just showed you guys. Okay? And if this high pressure right here was like in Pennsylvania, then this would be a major winter storm for the Carolinas and North Georgia, I think. I really do. But it's way up here. It's decently strong. So therefore, this is a nice setup for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. So let's get this off your screen. Let's keep on moving. Let's talk about what's to come. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this pattern first, and let's show you kind of the pieces in the puzzle on what's coming. This is the European ensemble. So we click on this. This is the very first storm system we talked about right here. Storm system number 1, storm system number 2, right in here. Here comes our huge trough associated, well, our storm system associated with this huge trough about to drop down into the western U.S. that's going to provide, I think, an entire lower 48 cold feed into the country. Get this back off your screen. We'll get this in motion here. And here we go. First system gets on out the way. Here comes our big storm, second storm system right here. And here comes this huge trough that digs down. This is a buckle in the jet stream, and with a big time storm system associated with it, with a cold air supply from the Arctic. All right, you keep this going. Stop it right here. You got a system that is really amped up, and it's about to take on a more of a neutral tilt, negative tilt, which means you're going to have a very strong storm system into here. But we'll stop it here, and we'll talk about this storm system in a second. I want to kind of talk about what potentially is to come. If you keep going, this system turns into a big one for the eastern U.S. But you get that out the way, and I should have really discussed this after the fourth storm system here, but here we are. And you kind of stop it right here, though. You got a big time blocking pattern setting up over Greenland. This is helping keep a pretty active storm track potentially off the European ensemble in the eastern U.S., pretty much anywhere, honestly. And this is dislodging cold air into this big time jet dig across areas of the lower 48. Now, that's not exactly where the jet will dig necessarily, but there's a lot of energy flying down here. And honestly, this will probably look a lot better if we keep this going. And here it is. I think this is a much better look. This is 300 hours out, I know, pretty far out. But the look on the European ensemble is a fantastic look for more storm systems, one, but a cold air supply. This is a true cross-polar flow. It's cold air that gets dislodged from the Arctic because of this blocking up here in the Arctic. Blocking pattern. This is what we call a negative NAO. This dislodges cold air into the lower 48 somewhere. Typically blocks in a storm track. And if you stop it here, your jet's digging down here, somewhere into here maybe, and you got a lot of pieces of energy flying down here. Could be flying down here, coming from the west, cold air feed coming down into all those pieces of energy, and we could have something bigger on down the road. I should have discussed this at the very end of the video. In fact, I thought I had the panels pulled up like that where we discussed the third system and then this, but got to the video and here we are. But this is what could potentially unfold after the third system. And I think the way I pulled it up like this first is because the beginning stages of this pattern is set off by this low pressure that I think is going to be very significant after this winter storm this weekend for the eastern U.S. But I really like this. Blocking pattern up here, dislodges cold air down here, feeds in pieces of energy as we get into about the mid-month time frame. And I know that's kind of far out, but I like the idea of this. And here it is. You can see the cold air get dislodged first with this huge trough that sets up out west. There it is, below average temperatures out west. Not that true Arctic air that we were maybe thinking it was going to be several days back. But our cold air source is cooling down. We're getting into about 7 to 8 days from now. Look how much colder Canada is at this point. I think we'll have a warm up here in about 8 to 9 days in the eastern U.S. So it'll probably melt some of that snow that you guys end up getting across the eastern U.S. But I think this is very temporary. And then we start to get to 8 to 9 days out. Look at the entire central and eastern U.S. really getting cold. And then our cold air source up here is still cold. These greens are like 10 to 15 degrees below average. Once you're starting to get into this purplish colors, that's getting up to 15, maybe 18 degrees below average. And then we take it all the way out to about 10 days. And most of the lower 48 is below average temperature-wise. And look how the warming is starting to occur up here in Greenland. And then Alaska. Typically when you see Alaska warm and up here warm, you're getting cold air dislodged into Canada, into the lower 48. And we take it all the way out to about 300 hours out. And yeah, big cold air coming into the lower 48. You like to see that for on down the road for areas that won't get much maybe over the next 10 days. So we need to watch this. And if you keep on going, the entire lower 48 is below average as we get to about mid-month. As this huge upper trough digs down, this is our next storm system. This is a big, big storm system. Already at this point, this thing is starting to take on a positive tilt, which is like this. Neutral tilt goes like that. Positive tilt goes like that. Negative tilt goes like that. When you start to get that negative tilt like that, that means you have a very powerful storm. Normally a very dynamic storm too, that typically has winter weather associated with it and severe weather associated with it. So this digs down, upper trough digs down, this huge trough of energy. This ejects across the middle of the country. And I think we're going to have a serious storm system to be dealing with. I think this one could not, I don't like to use the two words life-threatening, but I think this one could have more high impact impacts, if you will, for areas of the country. But this gets that negative tilt that we don't like to see. This thing becomes dangerous potentially, and then it just flies across the eastern U.S. And then already behind it, there's another area of energy on the way. Very active pattern setting up. So this is the third system. This is not the one we just talked about in the Northeast. I think this one's going to be serious. I do. So what does it look like as far as rain, snow, and all that stuff? Here it comes, right out west. Just a lot of rocky snow. I think the snow levels will be lower with this. Here it comes, 996 millibar low right here in areas of western Texas. A lot of heavy snow across the panhandle of Texas, Kansas. This could be a big winter storm for areas in the middle of the country. We still need to figure this out. 995 low right over areas of the southern plains. Major winter storm for areas of northern Missouri, Iowa. Back here, it's still snowing. In Kansas, rain changes to snow in areas of Oklahoma. Not a forecast. At this point, you have a 986 millibar low beginning to move and cut across the Mississippi Valley and starting to move into the Midwest. All rain down here. Could have enough cold air damming setting up for another winter weather event across the mountains, but this is not going to support a winter weather event as of now for the Northeast. We're still 200 hours out at this frame, but this is starting to get into early next week. This could potentially be a major winter storm for areas of the Great Lakes region in the Midwest, I would say. Now, cold air kind of funneling behind this, there could potentially be severe weather on the northern side. Anytime you got a very strong sub 1,000 millibar low cutting across the country like this, this has the real potential to bring severe weather south of the low. And then this moves in and moves out. GFS, what does it show? A little bit different. There's our big system this weekend. And here comes the GFS. Could be a major winter storm. Colorado, Kansas again. And this is just more of a colder scenario. Shows midway next week, a big winter storm for the Midwest. Not very much colder, honestly, and you keep on going. And finally delivers a big snow for you folks in the Great Lakes if this is the way if this is the way it occurs. I would still watch if you're in Kansas City to St. Louis to Chicago with this. Milwaukee, Green Bay, Madison. I mean, I would even still watch in Minneapolis. But this is a lot of heavy rain for the eastern U.S. And cold air tries to come in behind this, and then another winter storm moves in. And I'm just kind of showing you this just for giggles here. A lot of cold air comes in behind this. And this is what I'm talking about. See how the cold air is finally sinking south? We're getting 300 hours out, and you're starting to see snow a little bit further south. Not a forecast. And you keep on going, and then at the very end of the run, you can see another area of winter weather, like an eternity away. A lot of cold air dropping into the country. Man, we got some active times ahead. So what about the signal for snow for this? It is high. This is the third system. Tomorrow we'll start calling it the second system. Not trying to be confusing here. But there's your signal for snow. Moving out the Rockies into the plains. Very high signal right here in the middle of the country. This gets even higher for the Midwest. I mean, look at this. Pretty decent signal for Kansas City to St. Louis to Chicago, points north, a little bit south. And then we get into the eastern U.S., and here it comes. You notice there's still a signal for the interior Northeast, but for this next system, past this coming weekend into next week, the signal is definitely more so further northwest. And I think the Great Lakes could really get in with this. And I'm telling you guys, this is working in favor for us in the South. We get, first off, a winter storm for the Northeast. Then we get a winter storm for areas further northwest. It's not like this snowpack is going to stay forever, but I really think cold air could come in behind this and really just, it's almost acts like a freezer. And I think it would help these colder air masses that come in behind all these winter storms to set the stage later on down mid to late month for the South. I do think we need to worry about a severe weather threat. We haven't talked about this much. But as we are getting into next week, past this coming weekend, with the system we just talked about, is so strong, it's pulling up a lot of warm, moist air out the Gulf. And look at that moist sector riding across eastern Texas into the deep South states. And that is concerning. Across all the deep South states, all the way into South Carolina, dew points in the 60s. You match that with incredible kinematics if you have what looks like has the potential to happen across the middle of the country next week. And here it comes, actually this is this weekend. Let me make sure I didn't just show you. No, we're good. Here it comes. Here comes the big system as we are getting into next week. And there it is. Takes on that positive tilt, then that neutral tilt. And look at this 100 to 110 knot mid-level jet screeching across the deep South. So you add this mixed in with those higher dew points, you got mixing together of thermodynamics and kinematics, and you have yourselves what could be a substantial severe weather threat as we're getting into next week. But this is pretty far out. The Storm Prediction Center does discuss it somewhat, and I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple of days we get a 15% risk area issued across areas of the south for like the day 7, day 8, day 7, day 8 range. We'll see what happens, but we need to watch, because if something like the Euro happens, we're going to have a big time severe weather threat across the southeast with this. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Sorry for mix matching the kind of time frames up in here, but of course I'll have timestamps up so you can take advantage of it. God bless all y'all. Have a great night, and we'll do it again in the morning. God bless.